My purpose in life is to leave my dent in the universe in absolutely everything I do, as well as to inspire and help others do the same. For someone to leave their dent in my life is a privilege. For me to leave my dent in someone else's life is an honor. But to inspire and help others leave their own dent in the universe is an indescribable feeling. I plan on doing this through this podcast by celebrating my guests and inspiring my listeners, all while leaving my own dent in the universe and helping others do the same. My name is Fer Andrade, and this is Denting. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Denting with Fer. Today I have a very special guest. This is actually one of the talks I've been looking forward to the most. I'm here with a friend, someone I look up to, and now a roommate, so that's pretty cool. Lucas Churchill. How are you, Church?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Fair.
Thanks for being here. Honestly, when I was coming up with the idea for this podcast and interviewing people around my age, you and Tommy were people that came up in my mind. My freshman year with my struggles, I know we weren't that close, especially as we are right now, but you were definitely someone I looked up to. So this is really exciting for me, and I've never told you this, so it's going to be interesting for both of us.
Yeah, cool, man. I appreciate that.
Do you want to introduce yourself a bit to anyone that may or may not know you?
Yeah, my name's Lucas Churchill. I'm 22 years old. I'm from Sacramento, and I'm on the Cal men's soccer team with Fair. And I'm a graduating senior. I graduate in a week, but hopefully I get to stay and play another season here at Cal, do a grad certificate program, and I'm just enjoying the days.
Yeah, that's crazy that it's 1 week. I hadn't realized that, but
yeah,
I'm going day by day right now.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm trying to do too.
Yeah. So today I want to talk about your student athlete journey, starting off from your recruitment in high school. I'm going to take a pause throughout your just younger years in college, and then we'll finish off with where you're at right now. So take me through high school in Sacramento and your journey to get to Cal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'd almost always been bred to be a soccer player. My mom played college soccer at Brown, and my dad played soccer in college too. And I started playing at a young age, just like everyone else. But was the best player on my team growing up throughout high school, and received multiple college offers, and was ultimately deciding between Cal and Harvard my junior year of high school. And it was a tough decision. I think my coach told me that it was the longest someone had ever taken to make a decision about where they want to go to school. So I ultimately chose Cal, and I had a lot of second thoughts about it, but I felt like it was the right decision for me. For some reason, there was something in my gut that was leaning me here, and it was hard, for so many reasons. I mean, it was such a blessed, problem to have. Yeah. I mean, deciding between Cal and Harvard, that's not a problem most people get to deal with. So it was hard to keep that in perspective, as a junior in high school, and I had all this pressure and expectations from my friends and family, and I was trying to balance all that out while making the best decision for myself. So I think I was susceptible to some of the noise too. Why didn't you choose Harvard, or why didn't you choose Georgetown, or whatever it may be. And then other people were like, oh, Cal, that's so cool. But it was for me, I was always comparing myself at that time. But high school was good. I mean, I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, and I'm Jewish, and I went to public school my whole life, so that was pretty weird and difficult. I still have a lot of great friends from high school, but definitely didn't feel like my place, and I think that's one of the reasons I chose Cal. I want to go back to public school and kind of be surrounded by people of all different backgrounds. And but anyways, I suffered a lot of injuries kind of after I committed, sprained my ankle like 8 times.
Still during high school?
During high school. Sprained the same ankle a bunch of times to the point where I played my senior season without any ligaments in my ankle.
Wow.
Just a brace holding it together, and ultimately had to get surgery the end of my senior year, right leading up to my first year at Cal.
Yeah.
So it left me with a lot of questions. And so it kind of like came crashing to an end, I guess, my high school career. I was not really looking forward to college, if I'm going to be honest. I had a pretty good life in high school. I mean, I was the top dog. I had a girlfriend. I loved my family. I have a great family at home, and I wasn't really looking forward to leaving them, and I had a great group of friends. So really, I was just really blessed, and I think I realized that and wasn't really ready to leave.
Okay. And take me a bit back to the social pressures in a way. You're saying that you were the top dog, you had a great life, but there's always like people making noise and having opinions. And how did you deal with that back then? Like blocking out that noise, or just going through life without really listening, or I mean, even if you did listen to them, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I don't think I dealt with it really that well back then. I definitely listened to the noise, listened to opinions from my friends, from coaches, about where I should go to school, about where I stood as a player, you know, whether I could make it pro. And I was just listening to all these things. I didn't really know what I wanted. So I didn't necessarily deal with it really that well. And I think I learned to deal with that type of external pressure better when I got to college. But yeah, so it wasn't the most successful, I guess, experience for me. I mean, I think it was successful in the fact that I failed, and I learned a lot about how to kind of take in that outside pressure and I don't know, let it go.
Yeah. And you're going into college, you're saying you don't want to leave home for very obvious reasons. In a way, I was in the same place. So I understand that. Once you get to college, are you still injured? How are you taking these rough moments, dealing with that pressure, and then leaving home at the same time? Take me through your freshman year.
Yeah, so freshman year was kind of a train wreck. I obviously had the surgery. I had it in May, and I was leaving for school in August. And I got a call from my head coach and told me right after, probably like 3 days after my surgery, and, you know, checked in, how'd the surgery go, went well. Yeah, you're going to be redshirting.
Yeah.
Before I even got there. And it was a great decision by him, but at the time, it just devastated me, you know. Already leaving home and everything about leaving and starting a new journey and going to college was tough enough. And then learning that I was, you know, not going to be able to have the one thing that kind of grounded me with soccer was tough. So I left for school in August, and yeah, it was just really hard. Hard saying goodbye to my family because, you know, I had lived in the same house my whole life. It was my first time leaving home, even though I was only an hour and a half away. It was hard leaving my girlfriend at the time, hard leaving my friends at the time. And, yeah, it was just a really tough adjustment period. We got put in not the best of dorms. And it was hard making friends at first and all the things that kind of come with being a freshman. So I had dealt with mental health struggles since high school. Actually, it was really my end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year of high school. I was at a really, really low point. And that's when I first started to realize that I dealt with issues with mental health. Okay. But it didn't really completely register with me then. You know, I'd done the therapy, gone on medication and whatever, but it was easy to push it aside, you know. And one of the reasons it was easy to push it aside was because, I'm going to Cal, and life is great, like kind of using those external things to kind of hide what was really bugging me deep inside. And so when I started here my freshman year, it just got really bad. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, with the whole thing, I mean, obviously you're not ready to go to college in a way. Then you're told you're gonna get redshirted. I mean, that's the first time in your life, I think, that you were not playing on your team, right? Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a struggle. The mental health is definitely a big deal on that end. How quick did you recover from the ankle surgery? Were you at any point saying, you know what, maybe I can play? Was that affecting your mental health as well with that soccer aspect on top of the college transition? How did you deal with that on the mental side of things?
Yeah, I wasn't really the same player that I was before my ankle surgery. And I was definitely getting back to it. I didn't put a whole lot of pressure on myself my freshman year in terms of like playing. I knew I wasn't going to play. I knew I was just getting back. I was trying to get adjusted to just being a college student. But I certainly had a ton of doubts about my ability to play. I kind of felt like I was on the bottom of the team and didn't really see when I was going to move up. I didn't have any confidence that I was ever going to like become a key player or really just a member of the team where I felt like I belonged. And so the ankle and the soccer definitely was tough because that was a huge part of my identity. But what I soon realized was that really wasn't the issue. I felt like that was just so surface level, and really all of it was coming from my mind, and it permeated, into my social life, my relationships, my academics, and yeah, I was just constantly thinking and constantly judging myself, and the ankle and the soccer was, I think, just a symptom, of all that.
Yeah, I like the word you use, superficial. Something I say a lot is like how we focus so much on the superficiality of things, in the sense that if you're wounded, like if one of the problems in our life is a wound, many of us like to just put a Band-Aid over it and say that's okay. This helped you realize that it was a wound, that it wasn't that easy to push aside, because before you used to push it aside by saying, I'm going to Cal. Now you're at Cal, there's not much to push it aside with, so what do you go to in like the side of mental health aspect of things?
Well, that's kind of when I went into just like misery, because I wasn't at the stage where I like looked really hard at myself and said, what do I need to do to get better? At that point, it was suicidal thoughts, hurting myself, attempting to use drugs. Luckily, I didn't have too much access to those in high school. That's when it was bad with drugs. And in college, I was surrounded by, I think, much better people or much better influences. So I didn't really have that escape, but it came in other forms. And so I guess what ended up happening was the Band-Aid I tried to put on that was trying to transfer.
Okay.
And that's how I kind of wanted to heal the wound. I didn't really know. I guess I didn't really even know what the wound was that I was trying to heal, but I thought, okay, if I get away from all, I kind of attached the misery and the struggle with like this place with Berkeley, and I knew I couldn't go home, and I thought, well, if I go to Harvard, all my problems are going to be solved, and I was like this close to really making the move. I actually made the move. I got in contact with the Harvard coach. They wanted me still, and set up everything for me to transfer. I asked for my release from Cal, got my release, lost my scholarship, and told my roommates that I was leaving, all my friends here, my girlfriend at the time. I mean, it was pretty much a done deal. And so much happened in that like 2 to 3 week time frame. My girlfriend broke up with me because she thought I was moving to Boston. And I was okay with that at the time because I was like, this is the move I want to make, you know?
Yeah.
And I was kind of lost here still, but I was starting to appreciate it a little bit more. And I was really trying to appreciate my friends and just the place itself. And I was growing sort of like a weird love for the place. And yeah, I was getting ready to leave like 2 weeks later, and I got a call from the Harvard coach that said, yeah, you're one class short. They didn't check, and it was a whole fiasco. But basically, yeah, we can't accept you this year.
Dang.
And I was obviously devastated at the time and didn't realize it was really a blessing in disguise. But so I went to my coach. I was like, yeah, you're not going to like this, and it's probably not going to work, but will you let me back on the team? And I'm still so grateful for him doing this to this day, but he did everything he could to get me back on the team. And it wasn't really, I don't think it had anything to do with me as a soccer player. I think he just realized like kind of what that would do to me as a person and how that would affect me and like my identity. And so he did everything he could. Obviously, I lost my scholarship. My roommates, my friends were amazing, and they let me kind of jump in their living situation because I didn't have a place to live. And so all these people that I took for granted, they all came to support me and help me. And I think my journey kind of started from there.
Yeah, and obviously, one of my next questions was that a blessing in disguise now? So you already answered that for me. But before we take a step into your journey, how you've grown, how you've dented after that, before with Lucas that was struggling, how did you find out what that wound was? Because you said you didn't know it at the time. My personal realization is that to solve any problem, you first have to recognize that there is one. How did you deal with it?
Yeah, for me, and this is, I guess, gonna get into what you just talked about in terms of how I grew and dented. I started going to this place called the Ingame Institute, NYINGMA. It's a Buddhist school / retreat center right next to my old dorm at Foothill. And I didn't even know it existed. I'd seen like these weird flags on this building, and I didn't really have any idea what it was. And there was one day I was at a coffee shop and saw an ad for it, and I went and checked it out and started going there and meditating. And I had meditated before, but I didn't really understand the power of it. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that led me to recognize, I was able to become aware of how like crazy my mind was and how much it was jumping from worry to thought to emotion. And it was just like a monkey mind, you know, just trying to grab onto every branch it could find. And I kind of started to realize that was the root of my problems. And all of the, you know, expectations that I placed on myself, the emotional and physical pain that I had been storing up for so long, it didn't come out immediately like the first time I meditated, but after like 3 weeks of sitting there for 30 minutes in silence like 3 or 4 times a week, it just started to become a little bit more apparent. And I guess it just led me to watching my mind a little bit more, and I was able to realize like where all this pain was coming from. I think I'm still searching, you know? It's not like I've found the answer and have figured out the whole problem, but that kind of was the start.
I think that's important at the end that you haven't found the answer, because right now you're a graduating senior. This was back in your second semester of college, so your freshman year. It's been 3 years and it's been a long process, and you still don't know the answer, but there is improvement throughout the process. And we see your improvement, obviously, your sophomore, junior, senior year, as a soccer player, as a student. I didn't even get to know that side of you because I met you your junior year. But as we dive into your next few years, there's obviously, you love Tom Brady, and I admire him a lot too. One of the things I like the most is, I once saw this article that spoke about how, that famous draft day picture, from Tom Brady's body, how he's not athletic, but it said that the greats master something that everybody else doesn't, and it's that the key is to work from the neck up, not the neck down. So to work on that mental side of things, and which he obviously does. So with your mental improvement, how do you improve your sophomore and junior year as a soccer player, as just a student that's going through a lot of things mentally, and then passing that on to others that may be struggling as well?
Yeah. Thank God you brought up Tom Brady. I was waiting to talk about him. No. I think my sophomore year was like the best year of my life, honestly, looking back at it. I mean, it really wasn't, I guess, mentally. I still was struggling with a lot of crap, but I think just like I was fully like being here, know? I was totally in Berkeley. The whole Harvard thing I was letting go of. Like, it actually was weird how quickly I let go of that after like really since I committed, thinking about, oh, should I have gone there?
Yeah.
All that. And I was finally just here. And I like had the opportunity to play my sophomore year, and in a variety of roles, as a player, starting games at left back, right back, winger, played a little bit in the midfield, center back. I mean, I was kind of all over the place. So the adaptability aspect was something that I wasn't really used to and had to learn really quick. And I think, like, when you say Tom Brady, I mean, someone who's able to adapt to situations, to challenges, that's something I really admire, and just never giving up. That was what my dad always said to me, and Tom Brady was like the guy who just exemplified that, as someone on TV that I watched every weekend. And so when things got really tough, my sophomore year, my junior year, was just back to that, never giving up, coming back to watching my mind, meditating. That's what worked for me. I obviously still did the therapy and the medication, and did everything I really could. I attacked, my mental health from many angles. And I quickly started to realize that what was working for me was important to share with other people. And sophomore year, sometime, like I think second semester, sophomore year, I kind of looked back briefly at my journey my freshman year, and I remembered a time when I came in, just disastrous, suicidal thoughts, and I just had like cuts all over me, and to my trainer, and I just, I said to him, I can't do this anymore. Had the doctor come, they sent me to urgent care and all this stuff, and thankfully I got better after that. But looking back, I was like, man, there wasn't really a lot for me. Like, if someone else was in this situation, it could have been the end of it, and I felt like there had to be another resource, another outlet for kids, and mindfulness was what really stuck with me, and that's something I really wanted to share. So I developed Calm, which is Cal Athlete Led Mindfulness. At first, it was just like mindfulness for student athletes, and started leading meditations for students, and really it brought me more joy than anything. Hopefully it helped some kids, but really for me, that's what just like, it kind of drove me. It gave me something I was passionate about besides soccer, besides Tom Brady. And so that was really cool. But yeah, I guess so. That was my sophomore year.
That was your sophomore year. And then, well, this is crazy to hear because it's not something I know from you, Mm-hmm. I met you my junior year, and I remember the very first game we played in preseason down in Pomona. We stepped on the field at like the 60th minute when he makes all the subs for preseason, and you were the captain of that group. So I saw you and I'm like, all right, he's like our leader in this group. He's confident. He's a veteran around here. Like, all right, and that's all I knew. So finding out about this story is like impacting it and different for me. Were you that veteran that I made myself, or that I thought you were your junior year? Were you still struggling? How did Calm grow? Was there a lot of change really?
Yeah. My junior year was just like, I think it came back to sort of the expectations and the pressure. It's like, okay, I took a step from my freshman year to my sophomore year, and it was pretty, it was like boom, boom. And I kind of thought junior year would just keep going like that, and it would just be upward trend. And I worked really hard over the summer, and I was very focused on soccer more than I had been. And yeah, I had a great summer, and I don't know, life felt pretty good. And I kind of like was just assuming that I would come in my junior year and just continue that growth. And I ended up coming in just like sort of doubting myself, for whatever reason, as just a soccer player. And so I felt like I sort of took a step backwards, but I think it was important for me. And so, yeah, no, I had some doubts. I didn't come into my junior year confident, and it took me a while to get adjusted. I ended up dislocating my shoulder that year, which was really tough for me because I actually was developing some confidence, and then I dislocated my shoulder against Stanford, and that set me back a whole lot. And then I wasn't playing for like a majority of the season. I was like, damn, this is not at all what I envisioned. And luckily, as the season went on, I think the coaching staff started to realize how I could help the team, and I think I started to kind of go back to just do your best, never give up, wait for your time, like the time is coming, and I ended up contributing at the last few games of the season in a big way, and then ended up starting in the final playoff game at a position that I never really played. And I was definitely proud of myself how I handled that situation. And I think that's where the veteranship that you maybe saw and the confidence that you maybe saw kind of really came out. I didn't really know it was there. And I definitely didn't feel that way in that Grand Canyon game when you stepped on the field, even if I, maybe acted like it. Yeah. So it was a huge growing year for me, definitely as a soccer player. And yeah, as just a community leader, I think Calm really grew, and I was much more comfortable in my own skin, just becoming more and more in love with this place, and in turn made me just like happy with myself. My appreciation just skyrocketed, and yeah, so it was a growing year. And then obviously COVID hit.
COVID hits. Obviously, it's very tough, a lot of doubts. Did it in any way play a toll on your mental health? How did Calm do during those times. If it's not in person, it still isn't. So how did you deal with that and help? I don't know if you helped others deal with this sort of thing, because during COVID, a lot of people were dealing with things, and they still are. So did you play a role in any lives that way?
Yeah, it was. It was a tough year for me, just like everyone else. When it first started, I don't think, just like a lot of people, I didn't really realize what was happening. And I was pretty, I was at home, and like I said, I have a great family, great friends at home, and honestly, life wasn't too bad at the beginning of the pandemic. And also, I kind of thought we were getting back to normal pretty soon, so I had some hope. And yeah, it definitely took a toll on my mental health at first. I had the meditation. I kept myself really busy, which is always important for me. And I led some meditations on Zoom, but I started to realize that I wasn't that comfortable with it, and it was hard to really get it across. It was just so different from being in person, especially with activity like meditating. I feel like the energy of like meditating with a group together is just drastically different from doing it over a computer. You might as well just get on Headspace and, listen to a meditation. So that was definitely weird. It was tough. And then this summer, I came back here and kind of thought we were going to start a season. And then we find out, season's canceled. And after that was when it really got bad, I think, for me mentally. Like I experienced all of what most people were experiencing most of the pandemic, like right then, because I think I had held soccer as like something that was kind of like giving me hope, and it's like, okay, I'm still working towards this. I took such a big step at the end of my junior year. I was playing really well in the spring. I was working hard. I was confident, having more fun than I'd ever had. And so I just thought, okay, this is, again, I thought it was going to be like this. Maybe I took a little bit step back and then was going to kind of jump up again. And then that happened. And it was a tough semester last semester. My house with Tommy and Kaleo and Goose was always so close. And then last semester, all of us were pretty lost. Okay. And people were home. This guy was home for 2 weeks. This guy was home for 2 weeks. We're never really together. And again, I kind of went back to what happened my freshman year a little bit, in high school a little bit, where I was just suppressing kind of what I was feeling. I didn't really know what I was feeling. I felt like I was in a cloud, and didn't know what direction I was heading. And I was terrible at meditating last semester. And it's taken me a while to sort of develop any sort of routine or appreciation for it again. I've stopped going to therapy too, which is probably a terrible idea to stop going to therapy during the pandemic, but that's kind of how it started. And then, it was just a weird semester. It was a blur. Like, it's hard to even talk about. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. And I think it's important to realize that it's been such a long journey, and even though it's been long, it's been successful. There's still gonna be bumps in the road. And I mean, this was a huge bump. It was a very long bump, and it's definitely a challenge you were facing. But does this whole story have a fairy tale ending? Does it end in a positive? Is it fully positive, or are there still negatives? What's it like? Because you went through this whole thing. At one point, you were going to transfer, and even during preseason this year, at times when we were doing starters versus non-starters or subs, you weren't always on the starting side. I remember specifically like a week before our season opener, and then you started that first game and you start the rest of the season. How did you feel during the preseason as a senior, fighting for that role, and then just finally starting every single game in your position where you feel comfortable?
Yeah, it was crazy. And I think going back to your first question about, like, is there a fairy tale ending, and kind of how would you look back on your journey so far? I mean, yeah, there's been a ton of challenge and struggle, and I still feel like I'm still writing it, you know, the journey, and it's definitely not over. I hope not. But overall, it's been just a blessing. I mean, I could have been at Harvard, and I could have been, I don't know, I think they went like 0-16 the year after I was going to transfer. And I wouldn't have met any of, these amazing people at this school and had the experiences I had. So just that in itself is just like, that I think is a success, that I was here and I had this experience. In terms of soccer this year, I again worked really hard in the off season, did the best I could, and I was not starting and not how I had hoped it to start, like kind of like my junior year, and I think that experience really helped me this year because things weren't going the way I wanted it to at the beginning, and I kind of just kept my head down. Went in, worked hard every day, and did the best I could, and just kind of like wasn't worried too much about the future and about the past, and really just like being patient, and I think, going back to Tom Brady and some of these great athletes, you wait, your opportunity comes and you just have to pounce on it, and I think just being patient and working hard and trusting in myself, that's something I learned from great athletes like Tom, and I applied it. And it was a crazy season. I mean, we went 0-3 to start, and I put a lot of responsibility on myself because I knew I was like a new kind of starter in an important position on the field, and I just put a lot of pressure on myself. I took a lot of responsibility for the losses, and that was hard for me mentally. I ended up going home for a day to just kind of try to let go of some of that pressure and that stress. And thankfully, we turned the season around, got some wins, and it was just a great experience for me this season. I made mistakes. I had some great plays, and overall, I just learned from all of it. It was just cool to be out there, and it's been a long time coming, but just to get that experience and play with my teammates, it gave me a better appreciation for the people who I play with and for the opportunities that I get. And hopefully I can build on it, play again next semester, and I don't know where my soccer journey will lead me, but overall I just think I developed way more gratitude, and I think I need to work on some things for sure. I think I need to work on responding to mistakes, and like in the UCLA game, I made a mistake that led to a goal, and it took me like the whole first half I was in my head about it.
Yeah.
And thankfully I kind of looked at myself at halftime. It's like, you got to let that go. We got so much soccer to play, and I was proud about how I responded, but I think there's little things like that, and learning from your failure, it was an experience. That UCLA game for our whole team was an experience that is going to teach us a lot. We don't know how it will, but overall, I guess my point is I just learned a lot from all the failure and the ups and downs,
Yeah.
And it is kind of just a reflection of my whole career here.
Yeah. Now, I think that's a great way to put it, a reflection of your whole career here. And I do think that the team will learn a lot from this. Obviously, we still don't know what's going to happen. That was 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I am excited to see what happens. I'd ask you about your future, but I know, you're expecting to come back next semester. Still figuring out some things there that off podcast, we won't speak about it here. But yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's not a fairy tale ending. It's just learning about things, and it's a reality. It's what life really is. It's a reflection of your career here, but it's what life truly is.
Yeah. I think it's like, I guess I'm going to go back to meditation because I guess that's my kind of shindig, but every time you meditate, you're going to get taken away, and it's not going to be all pretty all the time, and you're not going to be all peaceful and quiet. It can get really noisy, and then it's just how you respond how you come back. And I think it's a great metaphor for sports for sure, but for life in general. And whatever happens with my future, I obviously hope to come back and be a part of the team next semester and contribute in any way I can. But I think it's going to be another like chapter to the story, and I can't wait to see how it prepares me for the rest of my life. I just think these experiences are just so valuable, and I've just been so grateful to meet the people I've met and to go through the struggles that I've been through. And yeah, I'm just excited to see what the future holds.
I'm very excited for you too, and for what's ahead. We've talked a bit about it, but right here when you're repeating it, it's exciting. We're not sure what's going to happen, but I feel like that's how it's always been, so it'll be fun. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing some personal things. And I mean, my favorite thing about this and the reason I wanted to have this talk so bad was because you took your problems and you made it a solution for other people. And I admire that. You took something that was painful for you, but in a way you dented other people's lives through that same way. So I admire that. I really do. You're my roommate, my teammate, my friend. So it's weird that I've never told you this, but that's something I really think and feel. And yeah, just thank you so much for opening up. I hope this really helps and dents other people as well.
Thank you. Well, you're doing the same thing. So I really appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone who watches these is going to be really appreciative, and it will impact their lives in some way, somehow. So you're doing the same thing, and you're doing it better than I am right now. So well done.
No, thank you. Well, that's the end of this episode of Denting. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe and share. If it's on Spotify or anywhere else, just click on all the buttons and we'll see what happens. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Make sure to subscribe to my podcast and follow me on my personal social media accounts for more, all at Fer Andraez. All links are in the description. If this episode inspired you in any way, please help me out by sharing it with a friend to help them leave their dent in the universe as well. That's it for today. I'll see you all next time.